Ronald Reagan to sign into law a holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Only Stevie could pull that off, man. Only Stevie could pull that off. Hello, everybody. Right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. It is Monday, and it's Martin Luther King Day. So, only thing we're going to talk about today, of course, well, it's going to be a far encompassing episode, obviously, but we got to talk about the song that gave us a national holiday for what Bomani Jones, the great critic and journalist, calls one of the greatest Americans to ever live, and that's Dr. Martin Luther King. Today, we celebrate his birth. His birthday is actually January 15th, but the holiday is usually celebrated every third Monday in January. And of course, the song that inspired that could have only come from the genius that is Stevie Wonder. And that, of course, is Happy Birthday. Now, the Happy Birthday song has been around as long as we've been on this planet. Happy birthday to you. You know how it goes. But the Stevie Wonder version, the version that inspired Ronald Reagan, one of the most evil human beings to walk this planet, and that's a personal opinion. Ronald Reagan to sign into law a holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Only Stevie could pull that off, man. Only Stevie could pull that off. Just his level of humanitarianism, his philanthropy, his musical genius, which of course we love to talk about on this channel, quite obviously, but just the overall effect that Happy Birthday has had, not just on getting Dr. King a national holiday, but it has changed how Black people sing Happy Birthday to each other over the course of the last 45 plus years. So, to give you guys a little background on the actual song, it appears on Stevie's Hotter Than July album, which came out in 1980, but the single was released on June 26, 1981. So, this is when Stevie really started kicking in the drive for MLK Day into full effect. And he plays every instrument on there. There's drums, there's synthesizers, there's his vocal performance. He has help from Suze Green, who co-wrote I Can't Help It with him for Michael Jackson, his sister Renee. The late, great Betty Wright is also giving background vocals on that song. So there's a lot of, cooks in the kitchen on that song in terms of background. But, Stevie was a dude who loved to collaborate. That's probably why he doesn't get enough credit as a producer. I mean, as a musician, obviously, he's top notch. As a singer-songwriter, he's top notch. But as a producer, being able to work with all of these different people in this space and, get them together on the same page for songs and vocal performances is absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, Happy Birthday. It just really changed the way Black people sing Happy Birthday to each other. Because, I mean, we can sing, we can always go, Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. But we put some funk on. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Only we do that. Only Black people can take a song that has been around as old as time and put our spin on it and make it great. And Stevie is just one of the greatest musicians to ever walk this planet, probably the best living artist we have left. Sorry to anybody else who feels that Elton John is in that space. I won't disagree. Phil Collins, won't disagree. There's several others, that are in pop, that are white, that may hold some, significance, cultural significance for folks, sure. But when you think about Stevie Wonder, a blind Black kid born in Saginaw, Michigan, moved to Detroit as a youngster, Poe as Poe could be, gets discovered by a member of the Miracles, gets signed to Motown at 10, 11 years old, goes through vocal changes because Motown was actually going to drop him, when his voice changed because they weren't getting the music that they wanted. But then Sylvia Moy, God rest her soul, said, wait a minute, I can work with this kid. Give me time. And then, of course, that saved Stevie's Motown career. Then, of course, he went on to be Stevie Wonder. And the things that he's been able to do in the 60 plus years he's been in the music industry, nobody else's resume comes close. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And when you look at something like Happy Birthday, the fact that he was able to inspire this change by himself, well, not by himself. I mean, everybody was, Black people, Black activists back then were always, campaigning for Dr. King, but the song literally, kicked everything into high gear. And again, it's important to note, folks, that the fortunes of Black America and America as a whole took a severe downturn during the Ronald Reagan era in this country. The 80s were not kind to Black people. They weren't kind to Latinos. They weren't kind to Asians. They weren't kind to indigenous people. Why do I keep saying kind? I mean kind. They weren't kind to, Eastern Indians. They certainly weren't kind to the LGBTQ community because, well, thing called HIV and AIDS was discovered. Well, not discovered, but, identified in 1981. And Reagan didn't lift a finger until one of his homeboys from Hollywood, Rock Hudson, was dying of the disease in 1985. And he didn't even want to give Rock Hudson the acknowledgement that, they were friends. And, well, this dude was dying of AIDS. So Reagan was not a kind person. And for Stevie Wonder to get him to sign into law a holiday for Martin Luther King, that's Stevie, man. That's just Stevie in a nutshell. And it's important that we acknowledge this and talk about this because, well, you look who's running the country right now. And you look what this person did. This person took away all free admission for national parks and things on Martin Luther King's birthday and changed it to his birthday. That's the kind of thing Dr. King was fighting against. The narcissism, the arrogance, the selfishness of white America, which we are all still pretty much suffering from right now and have been since this country started. And this is the 40th anniversary of the very first Martin Luther King Day, by the way. The very first Martin Luther King Day was January 20th, 1986. So that was the third Monday in January back in 1986. The third Monday in January is January 19th. So it's still 40 years, but being able to look back on this and just see that artists can affect change. Artists can motivate people. Artists can inspire. And I can't think of too many more people that are more motivational, inspirational, and just top notch than Stevie Wonder. Like, he's my personal GOAT. You guys can go back to the concert show this on this podcast about how much Stevie Wonder meant to me, and to see him in person, changed, was the greatest gift that I could have gotten in many a year. But Stevie was able to impress upon people the importance of Dr. King, just talking about, it doesn't make much sense. There should be a law against people who won't want to celebrate a day in your recognition. Like, he's basically laying it out in those first four bars. If you got a problem with Dr. King, there's something wrong with you. And I mean, for crying out loud, he's not wrong. I mean, because look at every time, we talk about Dr. King, people who actively were against him back then and would be actively against him if he were still living, like to cite the whole, content of their, not the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And you can tell that the people that are, cherry picking from the I Have a Dream speech, the content of their character is super flawed, absolutely flawed. And people just bastardized the meaning of Dr. King because they really didn't believe in his mission. I mean, Black people, we always believed in Dr. King, but the people who were against Dr. King, white folks, they could care less about having a holiday or, really leaning into what Dr. King said, because everybody thought Dr. King was just this pacifist who believed in nonviolence, who believed in turning the other cheek. God damn it, read Letter from Birmingham Jail, okay? The entire thing. Not just the first couple of pages. Read the entire letter from Birmingham Jail. Dr. King wrote this in the early 60s when he was, during one of his, protest arrests. He wrote a letter from Birmingham Jail about how the white moderates were going to be the downfall of this country. And damn if he wasn't telling the truth. So please, stop cherry picking from I Have a Dream. Stop, pretending that Dr. King didn't write and say other stuff. Once again, read the entirety of a letter from Birmingham Jail. And please, also the mountaintop speech, the last speech he gave before he was offed. And let's be clear, he was offed because he was organizing poor white people and poor Black people together. His last speech happened in 1968 during the garbage worker strike in Memphis, Tennessee. And that was something that Blacks and whites were all on on the same page with, that we get paid too little to be picking up other people's crap. And that's when Dr. King went to Memphis and said, I may not get there with you, but I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. So again, Stevie Wonder just went ahead and said, all right, man, I'm doing a song about this. We are going to really get this thing going. And again, this song was released as a single in June of 81. Reagan signed this into law on November 2nd, 1983. So if my math is correct, that's about less than 18 months time. Actually it is. It's about 16 months. Because it was late June in 81 when Stevie released it as a single, and Reagan signed it the very first week of November 1983. So yeah, we're talking 16 months from the release of a single to a national holiday being signed into law. That's power. That is using your voice for good. And that's something that Stevie Wonder has always done. And that's why I think we should celebrate him every chance we get. We also got to wrap Stevie in bubble wrap, because we losing a lot of greats, man, of all ages, old, young, unfortunately. D'Angelo dying last year at 51 just tore me up. Not even gonna lie to you. So Stevie Wonder is to be protected at all costs. I will definitely protect him at all costs. I will definitely speak proudly of him as my personal GOAT, not just as a musician, but as a fantastic, top-notch human being. And you should as well. And do yourself a favor. Dr. King had one of the greatest quotes ever. Anybody can be great because anybody can serve. So if you have a chance today, go out and do something for somebody else. You'll be glad you did. And Dr. King will be glad you did too. And that's going to do it for this ride on the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Contact information will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you can be notified of all new videos that drop. We're not chopped around here. We are not chopped, but drop on this channel. And don't forget to like and comment on the videos. If you haven't heard Stevie's version of Happy Birthday, and if you're Black, I'm worried about you if you haven't. Go listen to it and let us know what you think. But let me know what your memories are of Stevie Wonder's version of Happy Birthday, and we'll talk about it in the comments. So thank you guys for riding with me on the Groove Line. And until the next time we ride, may you find the groove, or may the groove find you.